Welcome to the NFL playoff segment of OnPoint Live. Hi, everybody. I'm Vince Ferragamo, former Super Bowl quarterback. Alongside me is NFL 20-year legend and Hall of Famer Jackie Slater. And we have only 3 games left in this NFL season. Jackie, the 2 championship games, and of course the Super Bowl game. So we have to get everybody caught up of what's happened and all this excitement that's been brewing with coaches and maneuvers and what's going on with who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. But we're gonna get you caught up with the NFC Championship matchup. And before that, we have to talk about the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC. And Jackie, Kyle Shanahan just resonates with this conference because he's had so much experience being in these playoffs.
Right.
But there's a few question marks about what happened last week against the Green Bay Packers. And this Green Bay Packer team really was outstanding. They played a great game against the Cowboys. They came in against the 49ers and were wheeling and dealing.
They played well, really well. Especially their quarterback until the end there.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Jordan Love, and he came back. He was one of the only few quarterbacks in the last 9 games that could throw 21 touchdown passes, only 1 interception.
Right.
But that game, he had a couple mistakes, and that kind of led to their demise.
Absolutely.
But I have to tell you that Kyle Shanahan made some indecisions. I mean, at halftime, he was in this past game, he had poor clock management at the end of the first half. That caused them to drive to stall. They had to go for a field goal, Jackie, and in bad conditions, weather conditions, the guy missed a field goal. So, it was blocked. So, there was a lot of question marks leading up to this game. And now what happens going forward? That was halftime. But, they ended up winning the game. But Kyle Shanahan, in the Super Bowl, when he was offensive coordinator for the Falcons, against the Patriots, he decided to throw the ball and not run the ball. They could have ran the ball out, stopped them, and won the game. The Super Bowl game that he lost to the Chiefs a few years back, Jackie, he was outscored 21 points in the fourth quarter. What happened to that team? It just fell flat. Overall, he has a 7-3 record in the postseason, which is not bad.
Not bad.
Looking at his history, though, what's your confidence in Kyle Shanahan moving forward?
Well, Vince, I think you said it when you said that he has been in, 4 straight NFC Championship games.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
How many teams are going to 4 straight NFC Championship games?
Right.
Kyle Shanahan, and I know that he has leaned on his father, I would conclude that. Mm-hmm. Kyle Shanahan has proven to be one of the superior play callers in the National Football League for the last several years. I am not going to, the guy is 44 years old. He's just now coming into his prime as a play caller, as a head coach. He does a fantastic job with scheme, which I think is one of his strengths. Kyle Shanahan is not a coach that you consider getting rid of because of a couple of things there. Now we'll look at some of the personnel stuff, and we'll talk about that when we get to Deebo Samuels. But I'm going with Kyle Shanahan. We saw him beat the Rams 6 straight times, and we know what a good coach Sean McVay is to allow that happen. And that was when he was loaded up. It wasn't when he had this young team this past year. So Kyle Shanahan, he's going to stay in place in San Francisco, and the people up there are going to love him until he gets ready to leave at the rate he's playing, coaching.
Well, yeah, I would have to agree too, Jackie, because John Lynch really has extreme confidence in him and his entire coaching belief and how they approach these games. And, they're built around a solid, a total team. Great offense, great defense, and special teams. And they've always played that way. And, they really have the Rams numbers. You said 6 straight consecutive wins against the Rams in recent years. But, moving forward, they have a tough matchup coming ahead of them. They've got the Detroit Lions coming to town. Now, they get the home field advantage, but Deebo Samuel is the guy we have to talk about right now. He's got a lot of has a lot of value to this team.
Right.
Okay. With him in the lineup, Jackie, they win most of the time.
Right.
When he's been hurt and he's been missing, they've lost 3 games. Now, they won last week, but he started the game, he played part of the game, but then he got injured his shoulder. So now with him out of the lineup, I mean, what does that mean to the 49ers? If you were to break it down on a scale of 1 to 10, with him in the lineup, what's their chances of winning? Without him in the lineup, what's their chances of winning?
I think with him in the lineup and certainly healthy, it's well over 75% that they will win the ball game. Yeah. And with him out of the lineup or not playing, you got to bring it down to at least 50%.
Yeah.
But one of the questions we were talking about a minute ago, you were talking about Kyle Shanahan as a coach and some of the decisions he's made and some of the failures he's had. Kyle Shanahan, this is one of the biggest problems that I have, is how do you leave Deebo Samuels on the field returning kicks? Not punts, but kicks. He could be hurt on that play. He returned a kick in that game, and I thought to myself, you got to be kidding me. There is no more versatile a player in the NFL, from my observations, than Deebo Samuels, and why would you put him in harm's way returning a kick? So hopefully Deebo Samuels is healthy for the 49ers and he plays, and if he does, he's going to be very difficult to defend, as he always is when Kyle Shanahan designed the plays featuring him.
Well, I can see their desire to try to keep him on the field as much as possible because of his talents, Jackie. But I have to agree with you too. I mean, there comes a point in time that you really need to protect your investment, so to speak, because you want him on the offense because he does so much on the offense. He's a receiver. He's a running back. He can do it all, and he can block actually. So I mean, it's if you lose a player like that, which we saw Brock Purdy's production go down, and we saw them stumble a little bit with him not in the lineup. But again, the coaching prevailed. Coaching came to fruition in that game. They did make the plays when they had to make them. And
then let's not forget the fact that the guy that Shanahan is working with at the most important position on his team, the quarterback position, was Mr. Irrelevant a year ago. Yeah. And then a couple of weeks ago, people were mentioning Brock Purdy as an MVP candidate.
He was in that conversation.
So you got to give Shanahan a lot of credit for perhaps helping to acquire the guy, but certainly teaching him how to be a quarterback in his system.
Well, he certainly has poise and confidence in that pocket, Jackie, especially when he has a great cast around him that can all play and that all can run. So, well, let's talk about these matchups. Okay, this NFC matchup game between the 49ers and the Detroit Lions.
Right.
I mean, some of these matchups are going to be kind of exciting to watch.
Yeah, and there's a couple of matchups, one in particular that I wanted to ask you about, and that was Jahmyr Gibbs. That explosive, elusive young back that they have there versus the 49ers linebackers. And I'm talking specifically about Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, coming off of 2 interceptions. How do you see this matchup shaking down? Can they run with this kid? Can this kid block them? Can this kid beat them in coverage? How do you see that matchup playing out?
Well, as much as the Lions enjoy running the football with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Jackie, I think this is a balanced situation because I can't really favor either one of them, the two, because you saw what he did on the 31-yard run against the Bucs last week. I mean, he made it look easy. I mean, he's so fast and he gets out and he gets into the secondary before you can blink an eye. I mean, Jackie, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. But this offense, I mean, you can't discount this offense in this running game. But the 49ers pride themselves in defense. And they, at the line of scrimmage, they pride themselves. They also pride themselves in linebackers stopping the run, okay? The secondary will handle the pass, okay? So I think that's an evenly matched. But let me look at a different matchup here. You got Penei Sewell. The offensive tackle for the Detroit Pistons is going to go up against Nick Bosa.
Right.
One of the top. These are two of the top best in the game.
Right.
At their positions.
There's no doubt about it, Vince.
Who's going to get the better?
There's no doubt about it, and obviously we scripted this so you could ask me this question. But Penei Sewell is he's a top 10 right offensive tackle in all of pro football, and he might be a top 3.
What makes him so good?
He might be a top 3 overall athlete at that position at 330 pounds. He can run. You saw last week how the coach deployed him on a trap, and then he bypassed the guy he trapped and got in the perimeter on a cornerback all the way on the other side of the field. So he is a dynamic player. I've seen him take pass sets, and I'm looking at this all the time. I've been watching this for 40 years, just offensive tackles taking their pass sets. If I don't know anything else, I can look at an offensive tackle and tell when he's taking a good pass set. And he is consistently taking pass sets that can block people. Now, on the other hand, when I think about some of the guys that are playing pro football today, and I wonder if I could block them personally, then this guy up here in San Francisco, Nick Bosa, is one of those guys that I look at and I say, man, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he did that. He makes you commit to certain things, and then just like that, he's got a counter. And, once you make a commitment to a guy's move, particularly if it's a power move, then you have to go in there with some thrust, and then all of a sudden have a counter off of that where you're coming out of that, it just leaves you so vulnerable.
I got a question for you, though. How much of your talent up front is physical and how much is it mental? Because I understand that, and I hear when you're coaching some of these young talented offensive linemen, you walk them through a phrase, and it's preparing them for all different types of scenarios that could happen at the spur of the moment.
Right. Well, one of the things that I always tell tackles is, while taking a vertical pass set, you're chasing a foot speed rhythm that you have in your head that's faster than you can keep up with, while trying to cover the distance you want to go. It could be 3.5, 4.5 yards.
I'm confused already.
While trying to,
and they say it's not a skill position.
While trying to cover that distance and all at the same time showing that defender what you want him to see. Now, if you're doing that, you're least likely to get early power moves or early counter moves. You can kind of lull a guy into a sullen kind of a pass rush that's easier to block. And that's what I always tell offensive tackles, and that's what I see Penei Sewell do when he takes his pass sets. He doesn't commit too soon.
Last week I was in Orlando for the Hula Bowl, and they moved it from Hawaii to Orlando, Jackie, and they had two offensive linemen from Nebraska. One was a snapper, deep snapper. The other one was offensive tackle.
Wow.
And I mentioned you.
Were they big guys?
Said they're big guys. And I said, you got to work with Jackie Slater out here to get ready for the NFL.
Wow.
So you might be getting a call soon,
Well,
Jackie.
good. That'll be nice.
Get some more guys. Well, these other matchups, Jackie, we got,
Well, let me ask you.
All right, go ahead.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
The running back up here at the 49ers, Vince. He led the league in rushing this season with 1,459 yards. He had 14 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 8.4 yards per reception with 7 receiving touchdowns. What in the world are the Detroit Lions going to do to neutralize him?
Well, this matchup, I'm going to tell you, I think I favor Christian McCaffrey because as we said at the beginning of the season, he was my pick for Offensive Player of the Year, okay? What he means to an offense, he actually catches more balls than he can run sometimes, Jackie, if you get behind. So he can become a great receiver as well. But he's got that stamina and that speed and that power. And he's built low to the ground, and he just knows how to hit the holes. And when you have a guy like mastermind like Kyle Shanahan, creating these plays with these all different blocking schemes up front, you're going to be successful. But he's going up against the number 2 rated defense against the run in the NFL, and that's the Detroit Lions. But last week, they gave up 5.9 yards per carry to Tampa Bay.
That's a lot.
Now, if that happens this week, goodbye. Because what's going to happen in this game is we've seen so many times the time of possession is so vital and key, and you have to have that running game to control the clock and run the ball. We saw that. We'll talk about it in a minute here in the AFC, what happened with the Bills and the Chiefs, but you really have to be able and proficient at running the football. You see the Ravens do it. You see all the great teams can run the football when they want to because it opens up their entire offense. I think that. But the last matchup we have to talk about is the coaching matchup between Dan Campbell and Kyle Shanahan. Who do you favor?
Well, this is a classic. I think it's a classic matchup and one that a lot of people like to see because what you have is bite him in the knee Dan. He's going to do everything physical. He's going to do everything ruthlessly with some scheme, but a lot of physical effort is what he preaches with his team versus a smart guy approach, a tactical approach. Kyle Shanahan reminds me a lot of Andy Reid, tactical, realizing where you're most vulnerable, putting you in a position where you can't help yourself. This is what I see this matchup as being. And last week when we looked at the Buffalo game, for example, I'm watching the Buffalo game and I'm thinking, this is the formula for beating Patrick. This is the formula for beating Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. You run the ball. You keep them off the field. They had 78 plays, Buffalo did. And then Kansas City only had 47. They had almost a full 15 minutes advantage in time of possession that I saw. And what happened?
If you saw that, you would think they're never going to win the game.
You think they're never going to win it? That's been the formula for being successful, because what do we always say? We always say that defense and running the ball travels. Right. And you win championships and by doing those two things. And that occurred. But what happened? Andy Reid, he only had 5 third downs in the game, Vince.
Right.
Which meant that he was getting a lot of production on first and second down. And when that happens, you stay out of those third down situations. And they scored, there was some, you talked about some of the plays that they ran, how beautifully designed they were. Andy Reid just did a fantastic job of taking advantage of what the team did poorly.
I agree.
And so when I look at this matchup here, I think it favors Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers.
I would have to agree too. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's been in 3 consecutive NFC championships games. It's tough to get that far, Jackie.
Right.
And he's been 3. He's been there 4 of the last 5 years, as you mentioned earlier. So I think he's definitely had the experience. Will be a factor in this game.
There's no doubt about it. Now, Vince, another issue that you and I have had a lot of discussion on, particularly over the last maybe 5 years or so, is the quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and that's Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Do you think he is actually playing his best football right now?
I've never seen Jared Goff play better than he's playing this year, Jackie. And a lot of credit, certainly has to go with his offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. I mean, what he's been able to mold as a quarterback, a lot of it has to go to Dan Campbell. His physical stature in the pocket is unlike I've ever seen him before. He's strong, he's sturdy, he's more accurate throwing out of the pocket, will take a hit. And I think that's the area of the game, this physical approach of throwing the football has made a big difference in his game. And look who he's got to throw to. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Is he good?
Jackie, he's got Sam Laporta at tight end.
Like
one
him.
of the great offensive tight ends.
Gibbs.
He's got Jamar Gibbs. He's got his buddy Josh Reynolds from the Rams.
Right.
There's some there's some continuity in this offense, and I think Jared Goff, I have to tell you, I mean, he's got the second most yards in passing in the entire NFL this year.
Right.
A lot of it has to do with the way he's playing.
Right.
Okay, and he's playing lights out football, and you know what? There's a chance if they can run the football. There's a chance that they can come and really create a lot of havoc on the 49ers. But who do you like's going to win this game? I mean, who do you think's going to win?
Well,
49ers or the Lions?
Well, I'm inclined to think that the 49ers are going to win the game, but you can't ever underestimate the ability to run the ball. You can't ever underestimate a team investing in his offensive line the way I hope Ragnar, their center, is going to be able to play, but you can't ever underestimate a team investing in its offensive line for the not only regular season, but for these big-time playoff games. You want bigger, more physical, nastier guys representing you than that's trying to get to your quarterback. So, there's a possibility that Jared Goff and this offensive line and the backs and the weapons that he has could surprise us. But my gut feeling tells me that the number 1 seed, led by Kyle Shanahan and Bosa and those guys, are going to be difficult to beat.
And Deebo Samuel, you heard it first here, he's going to play in the game. I don't care if he's got a bandage up that shoulder, put a lot of padding in there. He's going to play. There's no, this is the season. He's got to win. He's got 2 weeks to rest up for the Super Bowl game. So I do agree that the 49ers, although I'm pulling for Jared Goff, I do agree that the 49ers are going to win this game. So that's my take on it. So Well, that's the NFC. We got to jump to the AFC. And, there's been so many big games in this divisional playoff game this past week, Jackie. But who comes to mind first is probably the MVP of the league. In our book, in my book, I know it's Lamar Jackson.
We're in agreement on that.
But I have to tell you, he's the first quarterback in the history of the game that threw for 2 touchdowns in one game, rushed for 2 touchdowns, rushed for over 100 yards, and he had a quarterback rating of over 100.
Never been done before.
Never been done
in the preseason, in the preseason, the regular season, or postseason.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now, so, emotionally, when you look at him, you get excited. All right, when you see this offense, because Todd Monken has meant so much to this team, okay? But they, have their work cut out for him, obviously. But you know what? In the past, he hasn't been prolific in the playoffs. He's been either hurt, doesn't win the game. But now he's 2-3, Jackie, after winning last week. Do you think that this performance last week, moving forward, that he's over the hump now? And he's able to move forward.
I think it was a really big game for him because we heard how he went in at halftime and he called all of the guys out on the carpet. And he basically said, follow me. This is the way I'm going to do it. This is the way I want you guys to do it. And this is what we're going to do. Now, if you looked at the first half of that game, Vince, they were a little rusty. And I think it had to do with them having that first round bye and all. But they came out in the second half, and I think they got rolling, and I think they're going to be rolling right on through these playoffs. Lamar Jackson he's a threat from the pocket. He's got the read option game. He's got great running back, good offensive line support, excellent defense. They got the number 1 defense. I mean, they're going to be very, very difficult for anybody to beat, Andy Reid and Mahomes included.
Well, what was so interesting to me as a quarterback, watching their preparation at halftime and what they did, and they came out in the third quarter, what adjustments they made. And this player, Christian Harris, number 48 for the Texans, was all over the field. He was creating havoc with this team. So as you mentioned, Lamar was confrontational with his players at halftime.
Right.
He made a real emotional speech. That had something to do with it. But I think Todd Monken went back to the drawing board and said, look, we're going to run the football. The first play of the third quarter, they rushed the ball for 8 yards. I said, they're on something. They got it. This is what they're going to do. They moved the ball on the ground, Jackie, and they scored 3 consecutive touchdowns.
Right.
Lamar rushed for 2 of them,
right,
and threw a pass to likely the tight end in the end zone. They were just moving the ball at will.
At will.
They controlled the entire second half.
It was
more will than anything else. But I think a lot of it had to do with the way they came out of that halftime, because they were tied at halftime.
Oh yeah, they were just now getting loosed, and because they hadn't played football in a period of time, and so it just took them some time to get loose. But when you think of Lamar, you got to know that Steve Spagnuolo over there, the defensive coordinator, is pulling his hairs out, trying to figure out what is he going to do to stop the Ravens, and what is he going to do to neutralize Lamar Jackson from the pocket as a passer and as a rusher. What do you think Steve Spagnuolo is going to have to do to help neutralize Lamar Jackson?
Well, I mean, the Chiefs, they're going to be on the road again. And usually they like to play at home in these playoff games, Jackie, leading up to the Super Bowl. But, Spagnuolo's been great on offense. He's got Chris Jones in the middle, and it's a big force. Without him in the game, it's much like Deebo Samuel being out of the 49er lineup. He means so much to this team. But I think they're going to have to create some kind of system, some kind of scheme on defense, because they're facing an offense that's virtually impossible to defend. Okay? Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense can run the ball at you, but now they can throw the ball from the pocket. And he's so prolific now because he has a feeling back there. As much as he likes to run the football, his feel is predominantly to pass the football. How do I get the ball to the hands of my receiver?
Right.
That makes a big difference.
It's a huge difference. Well, the way I look at it is...
But Spagnuolo, to answer your question, how's he going to stop him?
How's he going to stop him?
And I thought the 49ers would have did this a couple weeks ago. Not only one spy, because Lamar Jackson consists of 70% of the offense. So I have to stop one guy, basically. I have to.
But how do you do that?
Two guys.
How do you do that?
The only way I can do it is put two athletic linebackers that Kansas City's going to have to find somewhere. Not a defensive back, because if they see 6 defensive backs, then they're going to run the ball at you. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to get like a Fred Warner and Greenlaw. I thought the 49ers would have did this. Well, they probably do it in the Super Bowl if they both match up. But two spies, one on one side, one on the other side. And then tee off the linemen. Do not let them wait for the quarterback to move around. You can't do that.
Well,
you're going to lose if you do that.
Vince, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm seeing some liabilities in that, because, they've got a pretty good offensive line that can hold guys off. What I think they need to do is, remember the old mush rush where a defensive lineman would come and hit you in the middle, and he just go straight down the middle on you, and that way if the quarterback came out of the pocket, he could go to his right or he could go to his left and have a chance to make a play on him. Mm-hmm. I think what they need to do is they need to take Chris Jones, the best one-on-one, next to Aaron Donald, he's probably the best defensive tackle, rushing the passer in pro football. I think they need to pick out the one guy that he can consistently beat, line him up over that guy, and let everybody else do a mush rush. And let him get after that quarterback in the heart of that pocket and flush him out to those other 3 guys. I think that would be a key strategic move to get after Lamar.
Well, Lamar ain't gonna be bothered by any of that stuff.
Well, I mean, if he's got Chris Jones coming down in the heart of that pocket,
he's awesome.
He's gonna have to move around.
Well,
and as he moves around with 3 mush rushers, he might move into some of their space. So that's my idea on it.
Tactically, yeah, you're right. You're going to have to come up, and the coach that comes up with these schemes is going to win this game, Jackie.
Right.
But let's look at on the other side of the ball, okay? You got the Chiefs, who are a phenomenal offense, and they have the best quarterback in the league in Patrick Mahomes, and one of the best coaches ever, okay, in Andy Reid. They always scheme up plays every week.
Every week.
The plays we saw last week are going to be different this week.
They'll be different this week.
How do you stop the Kansas City offense if you're a Triple Crown winner on defense? The Ravens are. They have the best overall defense, the best defense against the run, and the best defense against the pass. What do they do with that defense to stop this offense?
Well,
that's not a normal offense they're playing out there.
I think the Ravens are just going to have to be themselves. They got guys specializing in run defense. I watch them at the line of scrimmage, and I see them butting guys in the middle and getting their arms locked out on them and shedding blocks, making tackles at the line of scrimmage. I see linebackers filling holes that are instinctive, and they just know where the ball is going. They go there. I see secondary not only supporting the run, but doing an excellent job in coverage. They're the number 1 defense. I mean, they're doing everything
But can one
correctly.
guy cover a guy like Travis Kelce?
Well, to me, I think what you got to do, and we were talking about this. I think you got to take Travis Kelce out of the ball,
They're gonna have to double him, I think.
They're gonna have to take him out of the game. They can't just let him run these routes, these option routes. It seems to me that he's running and getting open and just nickel and diming you. Patrick Mahomes them don't end up in 3rd down situations often, Vince. I think last week they only had 5 3rd down situations. So what they're doing is they're getting all their yardage on 1st and 2nd down with these gadgety kind of plays that Andy Reid has drawn up to fool people, to take advantage of the weaknesses that they show early on. So for me, when I think about this matchup, it's going to be one of for Kansas City to be in this ball game through the first 3 quarters. What we're going to see is a whole lot less production by them on 3rd downs, and we're going to see a lot more of ingenuity on 1st and 2nd down out of them.
And both these, they're explosive offenses, both of them. And, they're starting to get more variety with some of their other players, receivers. And, you saw a great performance last week by Valdez-Scantling.
Yes,
okay, and
excellent.
I think a lot of it goes unsaid about the game prior to that, when they played in Kansas City with below 0 temperatures, and he threw a pass to Valdez-Scantling, a beautiful pass. He hung it up high in the air, deep down the middle of the field. and he almost caught up to it. And instead of him getting disturbed, the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, he was over there jubilant with Valdez-Scantling on the sideline, encouraging him, saying, we're almost there. We almost got this. We got this. And I knew this week they would come out and they would put it together. And he had the second most yards again, with the pass receiving this week besides Travis Kelce. So, they have it all, Jackie.
I agree.
But it's going to be a great game. We'll have to wait to see. I mean, I'm sure Taylor Swift will be there with her.
But those guys,
from the booth, they probably had a lot to do with that.
But Vince,
victory.
We didn't say this, but I am so impressed with the influence that Patrick Mahomes has on his team. Mm-hmm. You can just look in the faces of these guys when he's talking and tell that they believe in him. And that's a rare, situation, and it's part of what's making them so successful.
And both quarterbacks have that skill. I think now we see it more and more, and we see a guy like Patrick Mahomes never quit.
Right.
And Lamar Jackson's the same way. So this is what's going to make this game be a fight right to the finish.
Right.
And it's going to be great for the fans to watch it. So who's going to win this game, Jack?
Well, I mean,
AFC Championship.
I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar and the way he's operating from the pocket, the fact that they have the read option game, the run pass option game. I mean, they got great offensive line play. Their defense is it's just hard for me to see them losing.
Yeah, and don't forget they got the best kicker in the league too.
Right.
Justin.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's unbelievable, and he never misses a field goal. So, and they're playing at home.
Right.
And from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, we haven't wavered. We still predicted both those two teams. And,
we did, didn't we?
Even at the beginning of the year, before I saw Todd Monken come aboard, I had my doubts.
Yeah.
But when I saw him come aboard and I saw what he instituted and what he's done to this offense with a guy like Lamar Jackson, they're indefensible.
Yeah.
So
they're pretty good.
I think the Ravens are going to be playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl. That's my pick.
I'm inclined to agree.
Okay, let's talk about these coaching changes, Jackie. Before we say farewell to all of our viewers out there, we got to talk about the coaching.
The coaching carousel, huh?
Wow. I mean, God, how many?
It happens every year.
8 coaches in the
every
NFL
year.
are gone.
Every year.
But then we also have the Harbaugh connection.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh won the national championship. Is John Harbaugh going to win
the Super Bowl?
I mean, it could happen.
Could happen.
It could happen. But what's Jimmy Harbaugh going to do? Is he going to stay? Is he going to stay coaching in Michigan, or is he going to go? What team would he go to?
Vince, he's got a lot of opportunity, it seems, because he's been interviewing everybody but for the commissioner. He's been everywhere. But I mean, to me, I think him coming to L.A. and coaching the Chargers would be I mean, he'd have a quarterback. Right. He'd have a lot of weapons on in the receiver position. He's got good defensive players that can rush the passer and cover. I mean, this is the team that's most close to taking off and going to the next level than almost anybody. And with his ingenuity and motivation abilities, he would make the Chargers a special team here in L.A. and probably would take a little bit of the sparkle off the Rams and what they're doing over there with Sean McVay and his great efforts.
Now, in today's football environment, Jackie, would you rather coach professionally or would you rather deal with recruiting in the NIL in college?
Well, the NIL, and I know you have strong opinions about this, but the NIL is making it more like pro football than ever before. I mean, we saw the head coach in Nebraska, Rule, talk about how much it was going to cost to get a quality quarterback in there. I'm talking about the price going up. He was talking $2 million.
Right.
$2 million for a college quarterback. And so, I think, go to the pros and then let the people, because if you go to the pros, you're going to have a general manager that can manage and handle all the negotiations and stuff. You just got to tell them who to get and then get out of it as a coach. And I think most coaches would rather just coach than to be handling a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, years ago, you could probably coach at college level for many, many years. I mean, Ara Parseghian did Woody Hayes. And,
Eddie Robinson and Grambling.
For years and years and years. But now it's a little different. And so, there's, you can get fired just as easy now coaching college as you can pros. But
right.
everybody's just wants success, and that's what you want. But you got to get a quality coach. Here's another quality coach, Bill Belichick, Jackie. He's been interviewing. He interviewed twice with the Atlanta Falcons.
Right.
I thought he was going to go to the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys could, with a guy like that.
I never thought, I never saw him going to the Cowboys because I think Jerry Jones is way too active in personnel decisions and all of that to have a guy like Bill Belichick, because it seemed to me that Bill Belichick, he wants to make all of the decisions.
Yeah.
So for me,
what about the Chargers?
Yeah, when I think
he can make a big difference with the Chargers.
Yes,
too.
he could, and I think there are two different kind of situations that would be attractive to Bill. One would be a total rebuild of a roster with his people, his personnel people helping him make the decisions on the type of players that he wants. And the other one would be landing with a spot that they already have the pieces, like the Chargers, so that he could go in there and just build his system of operational protocol in that team so they'd have a chance to be successful early on. Either one of those scenarios, I think, gives Bill, would be attractive to him.
We were both back at Matthew Slater's last game and also Bill Belichick's last coach game with the New England Patriots. Jackie, it was a great tribute to Matthew that they had. Everybody's wearing number 18 on the field and watching him perform his last game, and everybody's so well respected there in that organization. And you had a chance to talk to Bill Belichick after that game, I know, and had a few minutes to visit with him, and you get an inclination that it might have been his last game, I think, maybe, or no?
No, I didn't get that inclination at all. I just had the opportunity to thank him for, his role that he had in, developing my son into the player he was, the young man that he is. And I wished him the very best of luck. And he didn't seem phased one bit at all by the fact that he's leaving there. And the other thing is, it might have something to do with the fact that he has another year contract. So he's going to get paid for another year, whether he coaches or not. So, but if he wants to coach, I think there are going to be opportunities to present themselves, and I think he'll take advantage of it. And I still believe the guy has what it takes to be successful.
I agree with you. I think he's going to break Don Shula's overall record in coaching wins, and he's one of the top coaches that we've ever seen coach because of the success he's had with the Patriots and so many Super Bowl appearances and wins, and they did it schematically and with smart way to do it. And you looked at some of these playbooks that these guys have; they're like this thick,
right?
They have a term for every imaginable thing you can do, and I give him a lot of credit for all the years of his preparation and his refinement and what his dedication was to the playbook and to the Patriot organization. And so he'll bring that to wherever he goes.
Right. There's a lot of simple little things I think about Vince with Bill Belichick. One of the things was, you remember when games would start and you have the coin toss. 99.9% of the time, people would want the ball if they won the coin toss. Bill Belichick was the guy that strategically looked down the road, and he did not accept the coin toss. He gave it to his opponent because he wanted to have momentum going into the half and then continue that momentum coming out in the second half. So
smart.
He's been and now you're seeing a lot of other coaches.
Everybody does it now.
A lot of guys starting to do it. He's been a pace setter in a lot of areas.
Well, truly one of the greatest of all time. The other coach we have to mention too, Jackie, before we move on, is the fact that Sean McDermott with the Buffalo Bills, and you and I both like Sean McDermott, what he was able to bring, that culture he brought to the Buffalo Bills organization and make them a perennial team that was looking forward to the playoffs, and he got them in the playoffs quite a bit. He brought in a guy like Josh Allen, and what he developed in this team was been anything short of miraculous. I mean, but he hasn't been able to get past the Chiefs. So in this last game, he had the fake punt. He had a couple blunders that went, and I saw that game against the Chiefs. At the end, and I almost had reflections of the Scott Norwood missed field goal to the right, the 44-yard field goal they did in Super Bowl 25. They lost that game. So he missed that field goal too. If they hit that field goal, maybe they go in overtime and they win it. But do you think that his job is secure moving forward?
I think it is. One of the things that I didn't like that McDermott did was he let Leslie Frazier, his defensive coordinator, walk out of there, which means he's got to make those decisions as a defensive coordinator, which means that he may not make the right decision on running a fake punt and giving up that kind of field position. I think a head coach in many situations, you want him overseeing everything, even though he might be specialized in play calling on one side or the other. You want him to oversee the whole thing.
Right.
And so, and I think that might have been one of the mistakes that he made to go for it there. Especially, I think he only had 10 guys on the field.
10 guys. The other team had 10 guys. That's kind of why they might have made an audible call to go for it.
Right,
but,
right.
It backfired.
Exactly. So, but I think McDermott is a quality young coach. He's a smart guy. He gets his guys to play hard and competitively, because if he didn't, they wouldn't have been in the game to begin with. So I think you leave him alone, because if he leaves there, somebody gobble him up real fast.
You're probably, with all the vacancies that are out there right now, you're probably right, Jackie.
Right.
Well, that's going to do it for this past week in the divisional playoff games. So we'll have to stay tuned for next week. Hope you continue to subscribe to the YouTube channel and our OnPoint Live. And so until next time, Jackie, stay on point.